toolbox talk, notice board, emails, which can be used to convey health and safety information to the employees. One thing I want to discuss with you, that is the toolbox. What is the toolbox talk? Toolbox talk basically are the talks which are used to conducted before any kind of activity the workers are going to do. For example, if four workers are going to do any type of activity on a construction site, before conducting that activity, they will gather at one place and they will talk with each other and discuss about the hazards related to that activity. So basically, these are the example of toolbox talk. Moving forward towards the consulting and informing employees with regards to the health and safety information, what is the difference between consulting and informing? Consulting is basically a two-way communication method for which we can use to convey health and safety information and can get a feedback from the employees on it. Informing is basically a one-way communication in which you will inform health and safety related information to the employees. So on what issues we can consult with the employees? There are different type of issues. For example, we can consult with the employees on the changes in health and safety policy, if any new measures are introduced in the health and safety department, if there is any technological change within the organization, if there are any training needs which are need to be developed within the organization. These are some of the issues or some of the aspects on which we can consult with the workers on health and safety. How we can make an effective committee? The effectiveness of any kind of health and safety committee will depend upon who is going to lead it and what are the responsibilities of the committee member, what is going to be discussed, and how often that committee will do any kind of meeting with the employees and with the all other stakeholders. Moving forward towards the issues that can be considered while we are doing any kind of meeting in the health and safety committee, those issues are any kind of change in health and safety policy, new training needs, previous audit reports, inspection reports, previous health and safety performance review, and any kind of issues which workers are facing. These all aspects can be discussed in the meeting with regards to the health and safety committee. Moving forward to our next topic, which is training. Health and safety trainings are a systematic process of acquiring and practicing knowledge in a particular field or for a particular job which anyone is going to perform. Trainings have a dramatic effect on a safety related behavior of workers. Without training, the workers will work in an unsafe way and they will not know the protocols of any kind of job or any kind of activity which they are going to do. Training helps worker to understand different aspects. For example, with the help of the training, worker will get to know the hazards and risk associated with the specific job which they are going to perform and all the emergency procedures they need to take while carrying out their job. With the help of the training, we will be able to convey the health and safety policy and all the company's health and safety rules and regulation to a specific employee, so that when they will start their work on any kind of field or in any kind of plant or in any kind of industry, they are being able to know that what kind of precautions they need to take and what kind of hazards they need to avoid and how they can minimize those hazards. There are some different aspects and opportunities when giving training become necessary. What are these opportunities and aspects? For example, if there is any new worker joining your company, it is mandatory to give that worker a training for general health and safety rules and regulations of the company to keep him updated about all the rules and regulation. Other scenarios when any kind of job changes. For example, one person is doing any kind of construction job and after some time he is involved in any kind of maintenance jobs. So before shifting his role to the maintenance jobs, we will need to give him a training with regards to the maintenance jobs and the hazards associated with the maintenance job. And other instances are, for example, if any process change within the organization, any technological changes inside the organization, or if there is any change occurred in the risk assessment, we need to give training to our employees with regards to these opportunities to keep them up to date with the current risk profile and current risk level of the company. Whenever any new employee joins the company, first of all, the step is that we need to give him a training, a general training which is called induction training. In induction training, different aspects are involved. We can give different type of information and convey different type of information through induction training to the new employee. What are these different type of aspects? We will now discuss those aspects. For example, in induction training, we can give training of risk assessment, company health and safety policy, company health and safety procedure, procedures, company health and safety objectives, and all the other emergency procedures, maintenance evidence criteria, inspection criteria, and all the other general health and safety rules we can embed in this induction training and give that training and convey that training to the new employee so that he must be up to date before proceeding towards his work in that company. Point 3, human factor which influence the safety related behavior. There are basically three human factor which will influence the safety related behavior of the employees, which are job factor, individual factor, organizational factor. We will now discuss each factor in detail. There are some organizational factors which will influence the safety related behavior of employees. These are the safety culture of the organization, the level of leadership commitment being provided by the top level management, and the allocation of resources, level of training being provided, level of supervision being provided, and the peer group pressure. These all are the organizational factor which will highly impact the and influence the safety related behavior of employees. Going forward towards the job factor, now we will discuss the job factor which will influence the safety related behavior of the employees. So what are these job factors? First is task, then workload, then environment, display and controls, and procedure. First we will discuss the task. For example, if a worker is doing any type of task and which is complex, so because of the complexity of the task, what he will do that task in a risky and in a hazardous way, so there will be a chances of incident and accident. And on the other side, if one worker is doing a task which is less complex and he has a training on this task, so what he will do a task in a safely manner and execute it in a safely way. The second one is workload. The greater the workload, the greater you will be posed to the serious risk and hazard injuries. And the less the workload, lesser you will be exposed to any kind of risk and hazard associated with the task. That's why, as we have seen in the ILO have put some obligation and responsibilities on the employer that they provide flexible work patterns to their employer. That's why the put this obligation, because if they will provide a flexible work pattern, the workload will be less and there will be lesser chances of any kind of incident or accident. The third one is environment. For example, if a worker is doing any kind of job at any open place and if there is a rainy condition and the weather may be dusty, so that rainy condition and the dusty condition may put the worker on risk and he or she may expose to any kind of serious injury or accident. So what we have learned from the environment, that if the environment conditions are worse, you will be exposed to more risk and more hazards, and if the environmental conditions are less, if the environment conditions are bad and if the environment conditions are good, you will be exposed to less risk and less hazards. Then it comes the display and control. For example, if a worker is doing any kind of task on a machinery and on that machinery the controls are complex and that controls cannot be understood by the worker, then due to that complexity of the controls, the worker may be posed to a serious risk of injury or any kind of accident due to the complexity of the controls and display. The last one comes the procedure. The more complicated procedure will pose more risk to the workers doing that task, because that procedures are developed on any kind of specific activity and on any kind of specific task. If the worker doesn't understand the procedures properly, then he will be posed to serious threats and serious risk and hazards associated with that activity. Going forward towards the individual factor that affect the safety related behavior of the employees, what are these individual factors? These are competence, which includes knowledge, ability, training, and the experience of that specified or specific person. Skills, personality, attitude, motivation. Basically, motivation is the thing that make a person do what they do. For example, we can increase or change the motivation of employees by giving them rewards, incentives, and giving them a positive or negative feedback. First, it comes the attitude. Now we will discuss what is attitude and how does it can affect the safety related behavior of the employees. Attitude is basically person point of view or way of looking at something, how they think and feel about it. The attitude can be changed by education and training. We can change the attitude of any kind of employee by giving him a training, by giving him appropriate education, and by giving him a good environment. And also we can also consult with him, we can also involve him in different kind of health and safety activities, in different kind of health and safety related procedure while we are developing it. So by using all this aspect, we can change and update the attitudes of any kind of specific employee or any employee working in our organization. Then it comes risk perception. What is the risk perception? Now we will discuss the how can risk perception affect the safety related behavior of employees at the workplace. Risk perception is basically a way of person brains interpret information sent it by their senses. What are the senses? Senses are your five senses which you have: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. There are two diagrams on your screen, as you can see. The one diagram is on left and the one diagram is on right. Both diagrams are basically same, and the difference in them is the way of interpreting. Someone will see the diagram as an left, and someone will see the diagram in a way that it is represented at the right side. So these are basically two different ways of seeing this diagram. That's what the risk perception is. Coming forward towards the factors that can affect the risk perception of the employees, now we will discuss each factor separately in detail. So what are these factors which can affect the risk perception of employees? These are illness. For example, if a person is ill, his risk perception becomes low. For example, if a worker is doing any kind of welding work, any kind of grinding work, and he is ill that day and he is sick, he may not see risk and hazard associated with that task, and eventually at the result of this he may become a victim of any kind of serious and severe incident. The second one is stress. Stress can also pose serious threat to your safely executing of any kind of task or job. If there is more stress, you will be posed to more risk and hazard associated with that task or with that specific activity. Third one is fatigue. More the workload, there will be more fatigue, and lesser the fatigue and the lesser the workload, there will be less fatigue, and you will be lesser posed to the risk and hazard associated with that job. Fourth one is drugs and alcohol. If you are doing work under the influence of any drugs and alcohol consumption, then it can severely and highly impact your risk perception. Your risk perception will become low and you will be exposed to serious threats and risk related to that activity. Then it comes previous experiences. If you have higher experiences of doing any kind of activity, you will be posed to less risk and less hazard associated with that task. And if you are a fresher, if you are new to this job, your risk perception will be low and you will be more exposed to the hazards and risk involved during that task and related to that task. Then it comes training and education. If you have proper training and education, your risk perception will be high, and if you have lesser training and education, your risk perception will be low and you can be seriously exposed to the hazards and risk associated with any kind of specific activity. Then it's come the use of PP. If you do not know how to use personal protective equipment, for example your gloves, your helmet, your safety shoes, if you will wear them in a wrong way, your risk perception will become low, and if you wear them in a right way, your risk perception will become high and you will be lesser exposed to the hazards and risk associated with the job. The last one is workplace condition. If you are doing work in any kind of area which is having a high noise level or high vibration, your risk perception will become low. How your risk perception will become low? For example, if you are doing any kind of work in any area and there is an emergency siren there, an emergency siren is activated due to any kind of fire emergency, due to the high noise levels you will not be able to hear that emergency siren and your risk perception will become low and you will become a victim of any kind of serious and threatful incidents. Towards the element 3.4, which is risk assessment. Before going towards the risk assessment, we need to know some basic definitions which are critical in terms of understanding